Good morning, everyone. Welcome. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Katie. I'm the general manager here at ADAC, and we are so excited to welcome everyone back in person for Digital Day. So if this is your first time to Digital Day, this is one of two business series that we host each year. Digital Day is in the spring, and Get Down to Business is held in the fall. And Digital Day is going to be a little bit more focused on maybe social media or technology or anything in the digital landscape that's out there and available to help you grow your business. So we've got a great series of events planned for today. This is your event guide, so it tells you what time each of the presentations are today and what all the topics are. Everything is in the presentation room, so you don't have to go anywhere. So that makes it really easy for you, but we want to make sure that you know exactly what's going on today. We also have notebooks and pens in each of the chairs, and there's extras in the back. This is supposed to be a learning experience. We want you to take notes. It's very hands-on and, takeaways for growing your business after today's lessons. So, feel free to take those if you'd like. And then, of course, it is a business day, but we want you to have some fun. So interact with us on social media. You have all of your social media information at the bottom of this event guide. That's at ADAC Atlanta is our handle, and hashtag Digital Day at ADAC. So interact with us and have some fun today. And then I want to say thank you very much to the Design Influencers Conference, which is our sponsor of this morning's talk. The reason that we have Digital Day is because of the Design Influencers Conference. We partner with them when they are in Atlanta. That event has been postponed to August this year, but we always host Digital Day in the spring, so we kept on with our series of events today. And then with that, I want to turn things over to Mollie. You're in for a great talk today.
All right, hey y'all. I hope y'all are good and awake. I've had a lot of Starbucks, so get excited about this conversation. My headshot that you saw earlier, I don't know if it'll go back to that, probably not, because it's a different presentation. That was pre-pandemic, before I homeschooled two little girls while running a business as the world fell apart. So I need to go see a plastic surgeon soon. Feeling a little tired. I'm feeling like I need a refresh. But I'm excited to talk to you. I own an agency. I'm co-founder of an agency called White Label Studio. I was born and raised in Atlanta. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the agency and about myself. But I'm in North Georgia now because my background's really mainly been in the flooring industry. So I look at this influencer brand relationship like a dating game. So it's a little bit cheesy, but it's kind of fun to think of it in those terms, and hopefully you'll learn a lot today kind of thinking of it that way. So White Label Studio, I worked in corporate America for 15 years, and I ask a lot of questions. I'm going to ask y'all to interact with me and raise your hand a little bit. But has anyone worked in corporate at all? Okay, so a lot of you. So we all got the HE double hockey sticks out of corporate together, maybe. But I loved working in corporate. I ended up being the marketing leader for a Berkshire Hathaway company and a Fortune 500 company. Learned so much. I wouldn't be where I am today without that time in corporate. But I really wanted to work with more brands. I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to have a work culture for my team that was different. And so that's why we founded White Label Studio. So today we started out as a boutique agency, and we still try to operate and treat our clients as a boutique. However, we've got 32 home brands with us now. So it's kind of crazy. Brick, stone veneer, flooring, rugs, all of the above. We've got an awesome team. Savannah and Hope, if you'll wave, they're here. Hope is our operations director, and Savannah is one of our leaders for social media for the agency. So that's a little bit about White Label Studio. We're in Calhoun, Georgia, but our team and our clients are all over, thanks to the digital world that we live in. A little bit about me. I told you I grew up in Atlanta. My family owns Bridals by Lori here in Atlanta, which is one of the nation's largest bridal salons. And my mom is Lori, who's the star of Say Yes to the Dress Atlanta. So I grew up with that entrepreneurial spirit, seeing the hard work it takes to own a business. I've been on Say Yes to the Dress several times. Y'all, please don't go back and watch it. I'm not meant to be on reality TV. I'm meant to be in the home industry doing what I'm doing. But I studied journalism. Like I said, I was in corporate marketing forever, and definitely always in the home industry is my passion. Design is my passion. So I love working in the home space. So I want to get to the basics of influencer marketing and what is an influencer before we start talking just about working with brands, because this will just give you a little bit of frame of mind when we get into the brand conversation. So how much do influencers influence? I think we know some of the elementary foundation of why influencers are important, but they've become even more important post-pandemic. And they have even more influence than ever before. So 7 out of 10 teenagers, we're always watching trends of how young people think, because that's our consumer of tomorrow, right? So 7 out of 10 influencers trust influencers more than a traditional celebrity. 90% of women use social media for purchasing advice, which me included, right? How many of us have made impulse Instagram purchases at midnight? I mean, I probably did last night, and I'll get something in the mail and I'm like, when did I order this? Have we all done that? And then 60% of consumers would consider buying a product in store based on something that an influencer recommended over a celebrity. So all this is saying is that influencers feel more trustworthy than a celebrity endorsement of yesterday. So just why this landscape is so important. Okay, how to become an influencer. If you are a designer, if you're working in the design space, you either are an influencer or have potential to be an influencer. So they always say select your niche. Well, I mean, that's design, obviously, for this audience. Optimize your social media profile. So if you're a designer, you're wanting to become an influencer, brand yourself. And if you don't have maybe the funds to necessarily work with a professional graphic designer, Etsy is a great source to get started. They have awesome WordPress templates. They have great logos. You probably know that, but just a little tip in case you don't. Make sure you understand the audience that you're going after as a designer and as an influencer. And I say as a designer, meaning speaking in terms of social media. Is it a younger audience that's kind of first-time home buyer, more affordable? Is it a luxury audience? Really understand who you're speaking to. Making sure that you're posting consistently is the key. And brands are really going to be watching that. Some might post, you just might have time to post once a week, some 3 times a week. Don't post every single day in March and then do one post in April. Really try to think about your social content ahead of time, build content calendars, and post consistently. And I know you're going to be talking about social media more later in the day, but all of that has to do with how a brand is evaluating what you're doing in social and what you're doing as an influencer. Make sure you're always engaging with your audience. I see a lot of influencers that'll post this great room. They'll say everything's linked on Like to Know It, but then they're not answering when people are asking about paint colors and where did that vase come from and all of that. Brands want to see that you're engaging with your audience. So make sure that you're answering questions and that you care about what your audience says. And let brands know that you're open to collaboration. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that because it can be intimidating. This is really important, and this speaks to how the influencer and brand relationship and market is changing. Micro influencers versus macro influencers. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with this term or not, but a micro influencer, some of you might be in this space. You have more followers than just a personal Instagram account, usually in the 10 to 50,000 range, but you're not quite a big dog, so to say, yet with 250,000 plus or 500,000 plus. How many of you would kind of consider yourselves a beginning design influencer or a micro influencer? Okay, so a few hands went up there. Just because you're in this micro phase, don't be intimidated to put yourself out there to work with brands. And I'm going to tell you a little bit why. Are any of you in the macro at all, 250,000, 500,000 plus followers? Okay, no one yet. That helps me know a little bit about who I'm talking to. How many of you hope to be a micro influencer or have goals to kind of get in the micro space? Okay, so that's several of you as well. All right, that really helps me frame my conversation. So thank you for participating there. But being a micro influencer has got more of a place than ever before. And just to talk a little bit about why. The power of the micro influencer is that your audience feels like they have a more personal relationship with you versus a macro influencer that's got the 500,000 followers and maybe has lost control a little bit of all of the messages she's getting in response to stories and all the comments that she's getting. So a micro influencer has become a really great space for brands to work with because your audience is usually pretty defined, your audience is really engaged, you're engaged with your audience. So I'm just encouraging you all, just because you don't have 200,000 whatever plus followers yet, you still have a space in the design influence realm. And you guys are going to have access to this presentation, by the way, so don't feel like you have to write down everything. That's why we made our slides a little wordy so that you could remember all of these notes. So right now, I'm going to talk about 3 of my favorite home influencers. So our agency, naturally, we do all types of marketing, but we really specialize in influencer and social media management. So all these 3 influencers I'm about to talk about, we have worked with on influencer projects and had a lot of success for our clients. But I want to give you an idea of how some home influencers are operating and how things are going. So I don't know if you follow Amber Interiors. Who's an Amber Interiors fan? Okay, so a few of you, especially my team, we love Amber. So these are all great accounts to follow. When I started following Amber a few years ago, she maybe had 600,000 followers. She put out a book. Then everyone had the pandemic. We were spending like 50% more time, right, on digital while we were home during the pandemic. And so now she has 1.6 million followers. She is out on the West Coast. She's in California, and she's got that really like laid back California vibe. Mixes modern and vintage beautifully. Really love her work. So we did a brand collaboration with Amber with our client Horizon Stone. It's a stone veneer product. So she was renovating what was going to become her and her family's primary residence. And so because she usually charges a lot for brand collaborations, which we're going to talk a little bit more about that, knowing your worth and all that good stuff. But because the cost of the stone was so much, because she genuinely needed it, and because getting it to her was so much, it would just ended up being a product placement opportunity for Horizon Stone. Well, of course, we handled as an agency all the negotiations and the contracts. This ended up changing Horizon Stone's business trajectory. It was such a powerful influencer partnership. They got so many, they weren't distributing their stone on the West Coast, but we talked them into doing it as our client because, you know, Amber's got a nationwide following. But they did end up getting so many inquiries on the West Coast that they opened 3 accounts, 3 distributors on the West Coast, and are now like selling like crazy their stone veneer products on the West Coast because of this partnership. And then AD ended up picking up this project and this partnership. So Horizon Stone got some PR play. So anyway, I just think it's a really interesting story. Not only was it a great partnership for Amber, and she's like, we've become friends with her now. She's gotten so many questions on what is that stone? What mortar did you use? Blah, blah, blah. But it just speaks to how the right fit of an influencer partnership can benefit both the influencer and the brand. All right, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Kevin. He is precious. Okay, I'm seeing some of you. He's Atlanta-based, so some of you might be familiar with Kevin. So we've worked with Kevin back since even in my flooring days when he was in college. So he started his blog presence and his social presence when he was still in college. I love his content because he's not afraid of mixing pattern. He's not afraid of color. It's a little bit funky. He's got almost 40,000 followers on Instagram, so we still would consider him micro, but he's growing. He's even got some product partnerships now, and he's unapologetically himself. Like in the mix of his interior design content, he's got a little bit of humor, like he likes oat milk versus almond milk and the debate on dairy alternatives. You know, he's got a little personality in there, which I like. So just wanted to point that out. So we've worked with Kevin on rug placements, on mood boards, and he always over delivers and does a really nice job. So he's a great one to watch as well. And then my final influencer I want to spotlight, we tried to select ones that have like varying follower counts so you can kind of see the macro versus micro difference in these accounts. So Tanya Wilson, her presence is called Dansley Lake House. Did I say that right, Savannah? Dansley Lake House. Okay, I butcher that every time. Sorry, Tanya. But she is considered a micro influencer. She's got just over 22,000 followers. We worked with her on a flat lay or mood board campaign, which I'm sure so many of you would be so good at a collaboration like this, for our client Carpet One Floor and Home, which is a national brand, and I'm sure you've all seen like Carpet One stores in your local markets. But she has grown her audience tremendously over the past year, really, really like hitting it hard with posting consistently. So she's a great one to follow as well. She's got a quirky aesthetic, which we love. And she did a great job. Carpet One was really happy with her mood board. So those are just 3 influencers that have done brand collaborations that you can kind of go back and look to for examples. So now that I've given you a little bit of background on the landscape of micro and macro influencers, we've talked about some of our favorite influencer brand collaborations. I want to get more down and dirty about how to work with brands. Before I do that, I just want to do a pulse check here of how many of you have worked with a brand in a like influencer or digital capacity ever. Okay, what brand, can y'all tell me, like what brands did you work with?
I mean, I can take her for decor.
Okay. Okay, that's awesome.
I actually do what you do. We have a marketing business, so my clients work with brands a lot.
Okay, I love your necklace, by the way. She looks so cute. Oh, awesome. I love that. Okay, well, good. So you're in this world too. We should collaborate. Yes, collaboration over competition. We totally believe that. All right, so working with brands, we're going to dive in a little bit more here about who says I love you first, because isn't that fun, like awkward when you're like really crushing on or not even crushing, at this point you've been dating a while and it's like who's the one to make the first move. It feels like that a little bit when you want something from a brand or you want to work with a brand, right? Did your brands approach you or did you approach the brand?
I think a little bit of both. Jabor approached me and then worked with Jerome.
Okay, great. So you've kind of been on like both sides of like having to step out of your comfort zone. We'd really love to work with you. So, all right. So this is a little bit about just that initial like introducing yourself introduction. I think a lot of influencers wait on the brands to come to them. They think like if my content's amazing or if I've got enough followers, the brand will reach out to me. And it's not necessarily that way. Some of these brands handle their influencer marketing in-house. They might not be lucky enough to have an agency like White Label Studio, right? And so they are overwhelmed, and influencer might just be a small little part of what they do as a marketing team. All this being said, don't be afraid to reach out and say like, hi, the Shade Store or whatever. I really would love to work with you. I'm doing a project where you'd be a perfect fit. Here's my media kit. Let me know when you have time to chat. If you're reaching out via Instagram DM, for example, which is a great place to reach out because they're watching their DMs, keep it really short and sweet. Like don't give the square footage and your blood type and everything in that initial pitch. Just keep it short and sweet. Give them the information they need and then offer to talk more. But sometimes just that simple message is great. Also, if you're at an event or at a trade show and hopefully all that stuff is coming back, that's also a great time to give a card and say, I love doing brand collaborations. Please reach out to me. I have a project that I think we could work together on. So it's always easier to reach out to a brand if you've got a specific project in mind, in my opinion, and like how you could use that product. It doesn't always have to be the case, but I do find that really helpful. So never be afraid to make that first move. And if the brand contacts you first, like cha-ching, the ball's really in your court there, and you can definitely leverage that because you know that they're interested and they want you. All right, so I want to talk about media kits, pitching, and examples of collaboration. So how many of you have started a media kit yet? I'm going to talk to you more about what a media kit is if some of you are looking at me blankly. So if you have goals to grow your social media following or to work with brands, it's important to start a media kit. And it's much like the About page maybe on your interior design website. This is an example of a media kit, so I'll speak a little bit. This is a really just clean, simple, fabulous media kit. We love this media kit. So it's got a little short bio, like about you, your Instagram handle, maybe it's your TikTok handle, whatever. It's got your super easy audience demographics and follower count, and you'll get a copy of this as well. But, I attract this many men and women, and you can find this information in your Facebook insights, in your Instagram insights. It's pretty easy to pull this information if you just dig a little bit. There are media kit templates on Etsy, again, if you don't have the capacity to work with a professional graphic designer. All right, previous successful partnerships, these are brands that you've worked with in the past. Now, this doesn't always, giving you a little cheating permission here, this doesn't always have to be paid partnerships. This can be brands that you have a great relationship with, that you've partnered with on an event. I mean, a little bit to give you some leverage there if you don't want to leave this space empty. Let's work if you have actually done some powerful partnerships. See, Flooring America is a client of ours, so that's where we worked with this influencer. But if you have done partnerships and want to hyperlink in here to that content, that's a really good thing. Because I know when we're evaluating an influencer, not only do we want to know the past brands that you've worked with, but we'd like to see the quality of the content that you've produced for that brand. Let's work together. So this is just could be a little bit of an area about that you like to work with brands that align with your values and your aesthetic, and this is where they can email you, blah, blah, blah. I think that's really important too. If you're an interior designer, you don't necessarily want to be working with a potato chip brand unless you post recipes about potato chips, You might need that income to pay the private school tuition. I get that. There's no shame if you need to work with a potato chip brand. But I just want to throw that out there that it's important to know who you are, going back to an earlier slide, know your audience and align brand relationships and brand partnerships that your audience will really care about, because otherwise they're just going to kind of glaze over it and know that you just did it to make a buck. Does that make sense, hopefully? The services offered. So this part is actually a little controversial. Some influencers like to post the pricing or a price range of their content and what they do, and some do not. We actually find it as an agency helpful to have some type of price range or some type of starting point with content. Because it lets us know, okay, this influencer is way out of our price range, or this influencer, maybe we can make this work. And usually the influencers, I'm going to talk about this more in a minute, are a little bit flexible on this package if you're buying several pieces of content. But I don't know if you can see here, static Instagram post, 2,000. Set of 3 to 5 slides on an Instagram story, 1,500. Blog post, 2,000. Instagram reel, 2,200, because we know those take a long time to edit, right? Full social campaign, meaning a content package, 5,000. And then she's got some a la carte add-ons. So I think she did a good job. She has got a really healthy size audience. We've got 35,000 followers. We're in a great demographic. She's worked with some really big brands. She's got a really beautiful aesthetic. So those are kind of the things that you think of when you're pricing yourself. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Also talk to each other. Talk to your design influencer peers, and maybe what are you seeing brands are willing to pay? How much are you charging based on your audience size and your engagement? So just some tips there as you look to develop your media kit. I talked a little bit about this when I was talking about Amber Interiors, but I want to go back to this conversation about payment. Do you accept product for placement, or do you accept payment, or do you accept both? There's not a black and white answer here. I think it depends a lot on the project and what you're needing. So if a product is what you are redoing a space in your home, and you really want to feature it in your design socials, and you just really want this wool carpet. I go back to flooring because that's part of who I am. So you just really want this wool carpet, and you're probably going to buy the wool carpet otherwise, right? That might be something because of the cost of the material and because of how badly you need it. You might negotiate a little bit more with that brand and be willing to take either less payment or no payment, or have them throw in installation or something like that. And that might just be a product for placement. If you give me this, I'll do a static post, a reel, and 3-story frames, kind of thing, depending on the retail value of that carpet and the underlayment and the installation. So just thinking a little bit about how you negotiate with a brand. If it's something maybe you don't need as much, or the brand's asking a lot when it comes to content, something like that, that's when you're gonna want some compensation. And when you get up into the micro area where you've got over 500,000 followers, you want to be compensated. I mean, you have a powerful platform that is equivalent to a television show, all right? And you've got a lot of trust from your audience. That's where we want to charge, $5,000, $8,000. That's when you want to consider getting an agent, which I'll talk here about in a minute. And that's when it's product plus payment. So hopefully that helps a little bit in thinking. If you're just starting out, I would recommend doing a few product for placement things at first, just to test how you feel doing brand collaborations and see how that process works. Because it's a little bit more back and forth than you might think if you haven't done one yet. Would you agree? I mean, it's a lot. All right, so understanding your worth. I think we've talked enough about what to test and how to charge and all that. In my mind, I'm gonna go on to this next slide about building content packages. So thinking about that media kit where Stacy had, her separate pricing. If you have a brand that comes to you, and I'll use Carpet One as example, because they love these content packages. So they might want to do a blog post, and they want an Instagram reel, and they want 3-story frames, and they want the reel on TikTok and on Instagram. So they have a big content ask. And if you add it all up individually, it might be $12,000. If it's a brand that you really like to work with and they're wanting so much content from you, it's okay to negotiate a little bit and say, I really appreciate you wanting all that from me. Because I can use the same video on Instagram and TikTok, then I'll reduce my fee to $9,500 or something like that. So just encouraging you that negotiating is okay. Always know your worth. Back to the other slide, don't give away anything for free, but it's okay to negotiate a little bit and build a content package based on what they're wanting. Other agency, would you agree? Okay. All right. This, in my mind, working with the national brands that we work with, is one of the most valuable things that you have to offer. If you only knew how much it was for these brands to go out and do a traditional video shoot or do a traditional photo shoot. Many of you are out there installing beautiful projects for your clients and have these great images, many of them that you might be taking on your iPhone. And that's cool, you edited them in Lightroom, whatever you do to make your pictures look good. But your visual assets are so valuable to these brands. So remember that. When you're negotiating with these brands, if they want rights to your images of the project to use in their marketing materials, you need to charge for that, even if you're a micro-influencer, even if you only have 8,000 followers. You might charge $250 per picture. And say you just redid a foyer with this awesome carpet runner and this beautiful piece of furniture and all of that. Take 20 different angles of that foyer, horizontal, vertical, a piece of the lamp from Stray Dog, this and that, the runner, get as much mileage as you can out of that fabulous foyer. And then the brand can select for my website and our social, I'd like to purchase rights to these 5 pictures. How much would that be? Then you've got to decide, do you want to put a timeline on those image rights, or is it a lifetime? I'm not a big fan of, putting a timeline on the image rights. I think it's hard for the brand to keep up with and hard for you to keep up with. I'll leave that up to you as you grow your audience. But I just wanted to discuss how important and how valuable your projects and your assets are, and how much brands need new photography, especially in this post-pandemic world. So this is a really big note for you guys. All right, so should I work with an agency? This is not necessarily meaning a marketing agency, although you might get to a point in your business where you'd like to work with a marketing agency. But this is more a talent agency on the influencer side. So as you grow, I have a cousin who is a vegan recipe TikToker. We were talking about her in the car on the way here. Her name is Hallie. She's a junior at Alabama. She made over $500,000 last year in brand partnerships and works with an agent. So that focuses just on TikTok and food creators on TikTok. But it's just, and now she just got a book deal from TikTok. So anyway, like mind blown, right? And she's sitting there in her apartment in Tuscaloosa making like vegan bagels and like avocado toast. I mean, I'm not kidding. So that's the world that we're living in now. She's working with an agent, right? Because to handle the business side. So you might get to a point in your influencer journey where you want to hire an agency. And we do this as well. We represent influencers and we work with brands securing influencer partnerships. But you might want to work with an agency to represent you as an influencer. They take upwards of 20%, but it's because they're doing all the back and forth for you so that you can spend your time creating. Being creative, taking those photos. They'll handle all the cost negotiations. They'll handle the contract negotiations. They'll help you get the final analytics back to the brand. All the things that some of you might not enjoy doing or have time to do. So there might come a point, like I said, that you're like, I'm ready to give this to an influencer agency to handle the business side, and I'll take my 80% to be the creative. So just wanted to cover that because that's always a big question that we get. If you decide to do your own business side, especially as you're starting out in the influencer space, contracts are so important. Don't agree to an influencer deal or with a brand without a contract. The brand 9 times out of 10 will be the ones supplying the contract. But the contract or the campaign agreement, people call them different things, but at the end of the day, it is a contract. Will outline exactly what the brand expects of you, how they'll use your marketing material, your images or whatever in their marketing materials, the terms of the agreement, how you'll be paid if you're being paid, all the things. So make sure that if you've got a legal advisor, or if you've got a friend in the legal world, maybe have them read over your first few contracts while you get used to it. The Federal Trade Commission, there are legalities involved in influencer partnerships, and the Federal Trade Commission has guidelines. That's why you'll notice a lot of influencers post like hashtag partner, hashtag ad, things like that. So be sure you're communicating about that with the brand as well, so that you're both on the up and up and following all those guidelines, especially as your audience grows. So you guys can let me know if you have any questions about that later. All right, so we're getting near the end, and this is kind of once the brand partnership is wrapped up. The brand might use something called Influence Kit, or they might use Tagger, and they're going to ask you to connect your social channels so they get the analytics. We have a partnership with Influence Kit, and we ask the influencers to connect their channels with us temporarily so we can deliver analytics back to the brand. But there will be some type of conversation as you're concluding your partnership about wanting some type of analytics, whether it's a screen grab or a platform or whatever it may be, because the brand wants to know how your content did on their behalf. And usually it's good news, right? So that's something to think about. Also, always over-deliver just a little bit, all right? It's like bringing flowers on that first date or whatever, like delight and surprise is what I like to call it. So if they've purchased 3 images for you, be like, well, you guys have just been so amazing to work with. I know you purchased 3 images, but I want to give you 4 just as a thank you, and I hope we can work together again. So not asking you to give them the keys to the kingdom, but just a little something, or maybe if they've purchased 3 story frames, give them 4 or 5 story frames. Those kind of things brands really appreciate. They notice how responsive you are, how professional you are, how easy you are to work with. And that's where you can go steady, and that's what you really want. You want to build a partnership with a Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, someone like that, where they're giving you compensation and product monthly in exchange for content, and then you've built an influencer income stream for yourself. So that's where the Go Steady comes in, is that your goal with a lot of these brands is to build an ongoing partnership. All right, so now we're to the Q&A section. Y'all don't be shy. I'll call on Savannah and Hope. Savannah's actually like in the weeds day to day, negotiating with the influencers. Hope's paying the influencers. So we've got the team here, and I'd love for you to ask us some questions.
I do, because we are recording today, I do want to use the microphone. So just let me know and I'll run over to you with the microphone.
Was that helpful? Did y'all learn a few things, I hope? Okay, good.
Another question.
Are you going to put me on the spot? I'm just kidding.
I'm Kendall, by the way.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. We have a few that are in that micro range, but most are kind of still in that 5 to 9.
Yes.
Do brands still partner with them? I know they're not going to reach out directly, but if, on our end, if we start to kind of pound the pavement for them.
I think if to me, in that 5 to 9 range, it's all about their rate of engagement.
Right.
So if their engagement is really healthy, meaning they're getting a lot of comments, they're responding back, there's a lot of eyes on their content, I definitely think there's a place to start pitching some brands in that micro space.
Okay.
With that size audience, I think you get much more like product placement versus compensation, both product, right?
Right.
But I do think that there's a place for it.
Okay. Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Savannah, would you agree, by the way? Yeah. Yes.
So, okay, I guess I'm on. Do you find it better to pay, because, if I'm being an interior designer, we pay a lot for photographers.
Yes.
But do you think it's better to pay for the photography and offer that to the brand, or is it just as good to use on the phone? Because obviously with the phone, then we sort of have more control, because the photographer adds a whole nother level of licensing and, trademark
I think that's
and
a
stuff.
great question. I think for brand collaborations, unless, just say you've used all Lee furniture, right? And then you pitch this project to them, whether it's before or after you purchase the furniture. Before, if you want the furniture for free. After, if you, just want to be compensated and get exposure. I would say, what would you say, Savannah?
I think it depends on your audience size.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think it really depends on your audience size and your
one way or the
engagement.
other.
And also the product that you are selling. If it's just, your social channels, the pictures are gonna look well on there from your phone just as good as they would from a professional camera. It's one of those things, some people like to use professional photography for their blogs, or if they do create books with their projects, in which case you're already paying for it. So at that point, yes, it would be worth it. But as far as just using on social media, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be just as good off of your phone.
I would say do the phone pictures first, because you can always bring a professional photographer back in the space, right? So if, you've got a great PR opportunity or a great brand collab opportunity, you can always have them pay for the professional photographer or whatever and go back.
And you can always pitch it to them. Say, I would love to bring in a professional photographer, and see if they would either cover the cost or pay for part of it.
Yeah. Sure.
How important would you say that blogs are? Because really, most people are visual, and that I find, and they're over it.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that?
We still have a lot of influencers especially in the like home lifestyle DIY space who are still blogging. And we have clients who still really value that blog content. So I would say it's a completely individual decision. Some brands are fine if you're active on Instagram and or TikTok and you've got a really healthy following on those platforms and that's who you are and that's all you have time for, that's great. And you'll still get brand collaborations out of that. But if you have a passion for blogging, there are still brands out there that will pay for and really value that content. I just wouldn't force yourself to do it if you don't have time for it or don't enjoy it.
As a follow-up, a number of my clients have lovely e-blasts. They do a quarterly e-blast, and that's very effective, and we have more control over that. Are you finding that partnerships with an e-blast would work to say, hey, I'm going to send this out, and I will do a placement to talk about your brand in this, and then share it on my social platform? Is an e-blast something that people are using? Because now I'm seeing it like on LinkedIn or Linktree, and there's just more, to me, legs in some ways with the e-blast and more control in the audience. I don't know. What are y'all seeing?
A little bit. We do
that?
have brand clients that still are doing newsletters and doing e-blast and linking back. A lot of our brands stopped doing blogs for a while, and now they've all started again for SEO purposes. We are doing a ton of client blogs. Yeah, we're doing a ton of client blogs now for brands again because of SEO, and we have the blog like integrated in the site and all of that good stuff, and they'll do newsletters that link back to their blog content. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
I can see that being a good use of the blog. I mean, for a lot of the clients.
Yes, and a lot of the times if our brand client has a blog and they've done an influencer collaboration, we'll blog on their blog for SEO value and backlink and all of that to the influencer's blog, if that makes sense. That's a whole different presentation, like SEO and brand and backlinking. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So I am one of those brands. And what I would love to see is databases for that email. In part of your marketing kit, I would need to know how many you're actually contacting. Because it's always like, what's the ROI on that? So you have to make sure you include how many people are on that database that you'll be sending out. Is it 10? Is it 10,000? Is it 100,000?
Demographic to the database.
That, if you want to catch a big fish, that is how you catch a big fish.
Yes. That's a great note.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Going once, twice. Any other input? Oh, wait, do you have another one? Yes. It's okay. That's what we're here for. Go for it.
I think I'm trying to click to our last slide. I don't think it's working.
So what's more in demand? I mean, Reels, video?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. TikToks and Reels all day long. And being in the home industry, being in the design industry, we were just talking about this morning as well, because we haven't gotten to see, we mainly work from home, satellite office. But I don't always love Reels in the design industry, because I love to study a picture and like zoom in and all of that. And some of them are going so fast, and it's like, okay, I didn't even really get to catch like how she styled her bookshelves because it went too fast. All of that being said, everyone's playing to the algorithm, and video is where it's at. So a lot of our clients are wanting like some reels and some stories or some reels with some static, but they're all wanting video for sure. We also do flat lay photography for our brands. And then we also pay influencers to do mood boards and flat lay photography. So we're seeing a lot of that too. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Those are all great questions. And don't feel shy to ask. Y'all can ask me anything. I have 2 dogs. I've been up since 3 a.m. with my 7-year-old puking. So,
gosh.
I caught it in my hands. I mean, I'm just a real mom, like all of y'all. All right, so thank you for listening. If you have any questions, you're interested in working with us, or you want to follow up, our just generic email address that Hope and I monitor is hello@whitelabelstudio.com. And then this QR code goes to our agency website. We are a women-owned, faith-based agency, and we'd love to work with you all and talk to you more. So that's our QR code to our site and our email.